Welcome to another edition of All Octaves with me, Val Kleinhans, where we talk about music, whether it's with the fans who love it or the musicians who make it. Today, we're chatting with one of the musicians who makes it. Tommy Rats of Toilet Rats is here. Love the name. That is what got me hooked to begin with. Tommy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, synth punk from Minneapolis, that is what you are. Talk to me about your initial exposure to music. What was that like?
Probably my uncle Brian. He played in a cover band, so when I was a real little kid, he was showing me Kiss records and you
Nice.
know the 70s stuff, but I gravitated towards the more theatrical stuff, I guess you could say.
Oh, like musical theater, or what are we
Well,
talking?
rock and roll, uh
Oh, like Meatloaf musical.
like the early, like I was a tiny little kid, and yeah, he had a cover band that played at bars, but my grandparents would babysit me sometimes, and I would raid his record collection. He'd show me Kiss records and Led Zeppelin and Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, and so that was kind of my first introduction to rock and roll. Is probably my uncle Brian or my older brothers. I have three older brothers, and the two oldest ones really more into like Van Halen and that kind of stuff. I have a
Mm,
There's another brother though who's a couple years older than me, and he really got into like thrash metal and death metal, and I would raid his record collection, and then I would like the stuff that was a little more punky, like Dirty Rotten Imbeciles,
okay.
Big Q's, Dead Kennedy, some of that stuff. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we're combining those punk sounds with synth. So that tells me perhaps you're like more of an 80s guy as well, too.
Yeah, I really got into synthesizers probably in high school. I was really into like the Rentals,
Mhm.
and then from there I was just like, what's this Moog thing? So from the Moog synthesizer, I started really getting into punk adjacent music that would utilize
Mm,
Moog synths, and discovered Devo and
yeah.
all that stuff. So yeah,
Synth punk is such a specific genre to play. Why choose synth punk and what do you love about it?
I think it comes really naturally to me. I don't have
Mm,
to rack my brain. Typically, my mind tends to compartmentalize things, and I put songs together sort of like a puzzle in my head, and I'm just always hearing
yeah.
cool spots for synthesizers and drum machines. But I do like music that's more abrasive or sardonic, or music that can be a little bit provocative. So it's sort of the ethics of punk mixed with my love of like synthesizers and drum machines.
That's a wonderful winning combo. I love that so much. How would you describe a synth punk sound to somebody that has no clue what it is?
Well, it could vary quite a bit. Even though it's a niche genre, you could put a few quote unquote synth punk bands next to each other and get some very different sounds. If I were to describe what I do for like the aunt at Thanksgiving who doesn't know
Yeah, who has
what's
no
co-
clue?
I would
Yeah.
just say it sounds kind of like 80s 80s dance club music, but with a lot more anger and distortion.
I love it. And I know you just put I believe it's your first album, right? That you just put out not too long ago.
Well, it's sort of kind of it's called
Okay.
Toilet Rats 4.
Oh,
So
okay.
some people think it's called IV, like like getting an IV at the hospital. Um,
That's because you probably talk to people in Rochester who think Mayo Clinic immediately.
sure, but I kind of like that. I kind of like that it can take a double meaning. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so the first release was a split cassette with a friend from California, called Strange Visitors. The second release was just a short 4-song EP that was sort
Mm,
of some dinner scraps that either didn't fit on the first thing or a couple songs I'd written after. And there's a song on there where Stacy Kraft, who is kind of known to the Rochester scene, appears on
yeah.
a track. And then I put out something called Toilet Rats 3 last year, and that was 8 songs, so not quite a full length. So I guess, yeah, this is sort of the first official Yeah.
Yeah, you were working your way toward it. You were on your way. You leveled up each time.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, I went from the bunny hill to the blue diamond.
Dude, I don't even ski. I always thought it was so hard. Every time I watch somebody else ski, I'm like, I 1000% would probably fuck up my ankle doing that. I really would.
Well, I'm not athletic at all. I'm very clumsy,
Oh,
so yeah, it's probably best I stay off the ski hills as well.
you love it. So, and you brought up the cassettes, which I thought was really, really interesting too. Part of this, or all of it anyway, you can get on a cassette. Was that a conscious choice? Was it just nostalgia for you, or just something you thought, let's try it and see what happens?
Yeah, there's definitely a conscious choice. I drive a 1995 Camry and I have a tape player, and there's a lot of
Nice.
there's actually a lot kind of a resurgence of cassettes. What's great about it is it allows smaller bands or smaller labels to put out a physical product without spending a lot of money. So it's sort of in
Mm,
the same ballpark as putting out a vinyl, except you don't have to cough up, thousands of dollars to do it. Um, and there's a label out of Cleveland called Steadfast Records. He offered to put it on a cassette, and I leapt at the opportunity because I really like the label. I like the person who runs it. So, um, yeah. But I just like cassettes a lot. They're nostalgic and fun. And most
yeah.
people are going to stream the music anyway, but I do like having a collector item for the people that do like physical items.
I know that's something I miss. As soon as I started to see CDs less and less and less, because I grew up on CDs. I would
Me too.
imagine you probably, yeah. So I'm 33, so like that was all
Yep.
I had, and I was like, oh, I miss them. Like the, I miss opening up the case, looking at the liner notes, looking at the photography inside the cover. Like I miss that, and that's something that. I mean, okay, streaming might be more convenient, but I miss that part about having a physical product too. So was that
Yeah.
something you wanted to give to your fans? You're like, this is important to me. I want them to have something physical.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed, like you said, picking up a record, especially if I'm at a show. I'm like, I want to buy
Mm,
buy something and support the band. I want something I can listen to, and I'm a fan of listening to entire albums.
yeah,
And yeah, I enjoy looking at something and reading the liner notes, seeing if there's some inside jokes or some lyrics, or sometimes they thank other bands that I can then discover. Um, it's kind of nostalgic. I understand that technology changes and whatnot, but
right.
I really do like physical art and physical media.
Yeah, I mean, there's pluses and minuses to both. I definitely see the benefits to both, but you just
Totally.
can't help but miss that. Like, oh, I miss
Yeah.
that physical coffee. So tell me about the making of Toilet Rats to begin with. I mean, this is your baby. What inspired the project to begin with?
Well, this project began sort of when the world shut down. I
Okay.
needed I needed some kind of creative outlet, and just as time went on in the last couple of years, I became more adept at producing and recording and learning how to use the tools and technologies and correct microphone placement. So the project sort of has grown with my skill set, and
Yeah.
it's a fun project. Most of the songs are based on like kind of old campy horror films and stuff. And I just thought,
Yes, I noticed that.
yeah, the world's really heavy right now, and I just thought it'd be fun to maybe make something that's a little bit more of a throwback, something a little bit lighter, and just kind of fun to listen to and fun to write.
Yeah. What is your favorite song on Toilet Rats 4? And is it Larva? Because that's mine purely because of the title. That's what I
Cool.
like.
I was not sure if I was going to include Larva because it's really different from the other tracks. I'm glad I did though. That song's been getting a pretty positive response.
Right.
My favorite song is probably Haunted House,
Yeah.
and
Classic.
it just opened the record with it 'cause it felt like a strong opener to me. But I've I'm a big pop person. I love like the Jesus and Mary Chain and Ramones and Depeche Mode, and
Yeah.
so that song I was trying to kind of like put all of that stuff into one song. Um, I don't think it sounds like a Ramone song or a Mary Chain song, but it has elements of all those groups. It has a big hook, a lot
Mhm.
of distortion. So yeah, I think that's probably my favorite track on the record.
Oh, cool. Okay. And you alluded to this a little bit just now, but I know you recorded the album, you performed on it, you even mixed it. Was there any point where you felt like damn, this is too much to take on.
No, I love playing in bands, but
Mhm.
this is this is really fun for me as well because I work really quickly. I don't have to run any of the ideas but or argue my case to keep apart. Um,
Got it.
and so I just work very very quickly, write a lot of material, and then I go through all the material I write, and then sort of whittle it down to like my favorite 10 songs. And to me it's a punk record, so I'm just like I want it to be really short, really to the point, like no fooling around. I mean, the album's just shy of 20 minutes, it's 10 tracks, and
Hmm.
that's sometimes that's hard to do with other people because different people can have different visions for where things should go. And like I said, I love being in a band, but um this stuff comes really naturally to me, and I just like knock the songs out, but then I'll spend, once I have something, the skeleton track, I'll find comb over it and add the bells and whistles if it needs it.
Yeah, the additional tracks and the layering, and it just yeah, you
Yep.
just get into like this rabbit hole where you're like, that sounds
Yeah.
really cool. Wait, that sounds really cool. No, add this too. And then, oh wait, was this too much? And it's like you're a mad scientist in a lab. That's how I feel every time I'm
Totally.
editing that's how I feel every time I'm editing my podcast episodes after the fact. I'm like, oh, what about this or what about that? And it's so much fun. So it excites me to see that people actually still care about that and love doing it. I read that what were your thoughts on just in general how people consume music today? Do you think that streaming ultimately is a good thing, a bad thing? We'll see more of it. Where do you think the future of it is headed?
I think it's a tool. Like there's pros and cons to it. um
Mhm.
I like that there's a lot of platforms, so like if a new artist releases something, it's available on a lot of different platforms. And then I know a lot of the streaming and stuff, it doesn't really generate much revenue for the artist. A lot of times I'll find an artist, and if I really dig them, if they show up in my algorithm, I'll find their Bandcamp and buy something. And people do
Got
that.
it.
People do that with me too. So that's one thing that's really cool is a lot of people are discovering my stuff that would have otherwise never found me.
Mhm.
So I'm real appreciative of that. I think it's really interesting, like kind of in the early days of rock and roll, a band would put out a single, like here's Surfing Bird or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
and then it kind of went to full album, and then it went to the bloated double triple albums, and then it kind of went back to full album again. Now we're kind of back to the single.
Yeah.
So it's really funny. We're in this interesting cycle. But I don't know. I have my ways I like um uh enjoying music, but I'm not going to tell anybody that how they do it's wrong or right. It's pretty subjective.
Yeah, and there's so many options today. I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing. It's almost like there's easier access to
Yeah.
find new stuff. Like people forget that this is the age where you can find anything in the world you want to. If you want to find new music, you can, and it's really
Yeah.
easy to do so. And we should
Yeah,
totally take advantage of that.
you can put in a couple keywords and then a bunch of stuff will show up, which is
Ta-da!
really fun.
Yeah. So tell me about the name and the story behind the name Toilet Rats.
Well, um when I did it, I just sort of needed a break from the heaviness of the world. So I was just
Mm,
like, I'm gonna write the goofiest songs I can come up with. Not like trying to be a comedy act like Weird Al or anything, but I was just thinking like 80s punk, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, because that is a punk name.
Yeah, so I just kind of picked a funny name, and then when I started getting better at recording, I had contemplated changing the name because I'm just like, well, the material's really getting a lot better here. Should I change the name? And then I just thought, forget it. I don't really feel like going through the whole process of starting all over from scratch. And you know what, like
Yeah.
bands evolve, and that's fine.
Yeah, they do. And I mean, they don't always have the same sound, even album to album, but they still have the same branding, so to speak. Like, okay, this is a Guns N' Roses album, even though it's
Yeah.
not completely Chinese Democracy and Appetite do not sound the same.
Right.
but you still have the similar elements that make it Guns N' Roses. So you can do with Toilet Rats whatever it is you want to. And I liked the name. I thought it was very unique, and I was like, I'm in. I like the name.
It grabs people and nobody forgets it.
It
And
does.
you know, and there's a lot of opportunities for like making fun T-shirts or stickers or whatever,
Yes.
because you know you can do a lot with rats. So
You, yeah.
it's kind of a gross name, kind of a silly name, but it's also sort of like heavily distorted, kind of trashy music, so it works.
It fits. It's on brand.
Yeah.
So, what is next for you? What's next for Toilet Rats? Where do you see this headed?
Great question. Some people have been asking me if I'm going to perform live, and so I have to think about that. There's a lot on the recording, so I've started making mixes so I could feed a click to a drummer and run some tracks either through a PA system or through a large bass amp, depending
Okay.
where the show takes place. But I'm trying to think about how I could pull it off live, so I could play occasionally. And then there's some other artists that I'm friends with that I want to do some collaborations with. So maybe I'll just do some singles kind of throughout the spring or summer, and um then maybe I'll start thinking about doing another album after that.
Yeah, that'd be fun. And anybody that wants to find out more about you, your music, where can we go?
Toilet Rats .bandcamp.com is probably going to be, you know, my Bandcamp's pretty good place to look.
Yeah.
Instagram, I'm just at Toilet Rats, and that's the only social media I have is Instagram. Even though that's starting to become kind of a barren wasteland of advertisements lately.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, Instagram can be a lot. It's fun because I feel like there is genuine connection there, but
Yeah,
the algorithm does kind of get weird sometimes.
but yeah, I'm trying not to have a million social accounts. Like and you know, maybe this is just me not being with the times, but I'm just not interested in constant engagement and just like look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me, look. It just feels
Yeah, I
really
gotcha.
narcissistic and like not real genuine. And I want a place where people can contact me and I can put up some fun photos and videos every now and again. But I'm trying to not live on the internet, and I even have a PO box.
I noticed that. So that is intentional. You'd rather like do you like snail mail better?
I love it. Yeah, I just I'm really I'm pretty introverted, and I just don't want to stick my entire life on the internet 24/7. And um I feel like the more time I spend trying to do like reels and billions of videos, like the
Yeah.
less energy I have to like write actual songs.
Yeah, well, it does. It does become a lot at once, and the more accounts you have, it's like the more to watch because it's like, okay, now if I have a comment, I have to reply to the comment, and then
Right.
I had to post this on this account. Oh, wait, I didn't post this one on this account yet. It can't be a lot. Like I totally understand that. I think you have to really, truly love it and be interested in it. But for what you're doing, I get it. Like it's a megaphone for you, and it's fun, but it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be like this constant thing.
Yeah.
Um,
I think
no,
I'm
that's
pretty
healthy.
I think I'm pretty friendly and approachable, but I just don't want to stick my whole life on the internet.
Yeah, boundaries.
Yeah.
Totally understand. Well, thank you so much for sitting with me and chatting with me. I can't wait to see what's coming next, man.
Yeah, I'm really hoping to get down there soon. I love the scene happening at Hidden World, and
Yes.
there's a lot of good people involved with that, and I love Bird Cop and stuff. So I've been talking to them a little bit. So hopefully I can get down there soon and do some sort of performance slash hangout.
Yeah, Chip
Uh,
Shots is starting to do more shows. I know Thesis Brewing Company, they're doing
yeah,
more more and more with us. I mean, sometimes I bitch because it's like, it doesn't feel like there's enough venues, or it doesn't always feel like there's enough going on. But if you pay close attention, you could find it.
yeah, there's stuff happening. I think Rochester has an awesome scene, and I'd love to pop in every now and again and participate in with it.
Totally. Well, we'll definitely see you then, man. Thank
Cool.
you.
All right. Well, thanks for having me.